Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. I'm Sarah Vantine here with Ted Ings. Today we have the UVEye panel, the MRI for cars. And Ted, we've got quite the conversation prepared for our guests today.
Sarah, we really do. It's exciting. We've been awaiting the UVI panel for some time. Really honored to welcome our guests today. Max Landau is the service manager at Cruise Chevrolet. Max, first time on the roundtable. Welcome. Very honored to have you here. Michelle as well, Michelle Taylor with UVI, Vice President of Customer Success. Michelle and Max, welcome to the Fix Ops Roundtable.
Thank you.
Thank you. Excited to be on.
Well, Max, I want to kick things off because UVI, as we just opened with the MRI for cars, this has really been part of the transparency that customers are expecting today. But I'd love to get your perspective. What are some specific challenges that you were facing that drove you to adopt UVI?
So, in the industry, no matter where you are, and I come from the Northeast and moved down to Charleston, it doesn't quite matter what state or what facility you're in. You're always going to have, a couple customers that may not have seen some damage on their vehicle that they didn't know of, or perhaps maybe they weren't aware of, that the UVI catches. And when we run cars through our process, every car goes through our UVI within 20 minutes of the vehicle entering the dealership. Before it ever gets parked or put into a service bay, so we can document the current condition of the vehicle and send that to the customer just to assure that, hey, your vehicle is going to be leaving here in the same exact or if not better condition than it arrived in. To be honest with you, when I came down, I've never seen a UVI apparatus before I came to Cruise Chevrolet. It was here when I first arrived last July, and I kind of looked at it a little sideways. I had no idea what it was about. But as I learned more about it and as we used it, it became more and more of a crucial part of our system and our process, and mainly, like you said, that transparency. For me, I have two very simple sayings and two mantras in this business, and that's truth and transparency lead to transaction, as well as people backed up by technology. And I think the UVI supports both those mantras perfectly. And we're just excited and getting better and using it every day, as well as what's next in the process.
And Michelle, hearing Max talk about the pieces, that he's experienced at the dealership, I imagine there's a lot of dealers that you talk to that, come to UVI to solve some of those specific challenges. So, what are some of the customer expectations that you're seeing across the industry that are leading people to start the conversation with UVI?
Yeah, great question. I think the core challenge with non-UVI dealers is the lack of visibility and accountability across every lane, right? And dealers that do come on board with a UVI partnership, they realize that by giving you truth in seconds, no opinions and no guesswork is driving that gross profitability for their service lanes.
To follow up on that with Max on that visibility and accountability, Max, how has UVI integrated into the processes at your dealership?
So, like I mentioned, it fits both of our mantras perfectly. And if we're going to be doing a walk around with our customer at their vehicle, I can educate, I can teach, I can show them what a bump stop is. I can run their hand over the shoulder of a tire and say, this is what a misalignment feels like. But in today's world, we're not as trusting as maybe we used to be, right? And sometimes we'll have that doubt in our mind from dealership employee to customer. It makes sense what they're saying, but I don't know if I can trust it entirely, right? Maybe this is the first visit, they don't know us so well. When we send that UVI report, that brings that transparency to the forefront. It backs up everything our advisor is saying in the service drive, and it allows that customer to understand that everything we're doing is honest, truthful, transparent, and we're backing it up with technology, right? Because most people now, if it's on a computer and it's on a nice layout and a screen, they're going to believe it, right? So it's about getting the customer's shoulders from here to here, right, as quickly as we can in the service process, and getting them to understand that this is a safe place to bring your vehicle. We're going to treat you the right way. We want to take care of you, your wallet, and the vehicle, right? So that's the premise that it backs up, and UVI really supports that every single way. And with truth and transparency, as well as people backed up by technology, it fits our mantras perfectly.
And Michelle, this is a real transparent look at the vehicle before the doctor looks at the vehicle. It's early in the process, it's upfront. And if you want to speak to some of those things, including the trust factor.
Yeah, and even to Max's point, right, from an like how dealers have integrated UVI into their processes, right? We've made sure that it slides right into their existing inspection workflow, so that we're not adding new systems to the team's process, right? And we're leveling up what they're already doing. And of course, the difference now is Max's advisors walk into every interaction armed with visuals and data instead of that trust me language, you know? Um, did I answer your question? Sorry, I was passionate about Max's response and
I think you're right on the money with what you say because, in service, and parts, at the dealership, we've gotta earn that trust early, okay? And what better place to do that and build a rapport, than at their vehicle? I think it's the best tool that we've got, and a lot of dealerships overlook that, so congratulations to UVI on, really Michelle, you've really changed the entire, industry in the way we look at, that service transaction, and by doing that in that transparent method early on.
I also think, thank you. I also feel, and I think Max would oblige, is everyone has this uncomfortable feel around AI. But what AI does is it allows us to be humans, right? And now Max's team is able to really focus on what matters is that eye contact with 100% of their customers 100% of the time.
Max, I want to come back to something you said at the beginning of our conversation. You talked about the first time that you saw a UVI machine and your initial reaction. And I'm imagining, I've seen the UVI system at a dealership and, customers when they first come in, maybe they've been going to that service department for a while, but now, whoa, there's something different. What's going on? So, what were your customers' initial reactions to passing through the system?
A little surprised. We drive all the vehicles through the lane ourselves. We don't allow the customers to drive through the UVI with some of our vehicles, and spatially, it's a little bit tight, so we want to make sure that we're not damaging any mirrors or anything like that. So we drive the vehicles through, but it's interesting to see the customer's perspective if they don't know what the UVI is already. Many of our customers do, and it's interesting how they're teaching other customers what the UVI is within our store. But they're inquisitive about it initially. And at the consultation and the walk around, we queue up the fact that we're going to bring the vehicle through the UVI inspection because it's important to let them know, hey, this is the technology we're using. This is what we're using to support why you're bringing the vehicle in today. And let's say it's son and daughter who brought the car in and they need to call mom and dad, right? They now have this UVI inspection that they can send to their parents, husband to wife, wife to husband, whatever the case may be. So that visual evidence is there, right? And they can say, yeah, you know what? They told you need tires. Looks like we need tires, and once they get that report back from the technician, another really great thing about the UVI is it takes away that shock factor, right? The customer's not going to be so surprised when the advisor calls and says, hey, you need $800 or $1,200 worth of tires. They've already had at least 20 to 30 minutes to kind of sit on that information and kind of say, yeah, you know what? I can see it here. The evidence is there. We absolutely need them. They're being honest. You know what? Let's get some pricing. Let's see what our next steps are. And the customer engagement with UVI is really interesting as well. And it's been fun to watch over time. We have a large display board in our customer lounge that's basically just a big UVI screen.
Well,
And customers will go up to it, find their car, and start talking about it. And other customers will walk up curious to see what it is. And customers are teaching other customers how to use the UVI and how to look for things. So that's really the exciting part of it is that now it's not only foreign technology, but it's technology that our customers are getting to know, getting to appreciate, and more importantly, getting to expect when they come in for service with us, right? It's something that, right now we're doing a little bit differently than everyone else. And with sending videos, sending our UVI inspections, it's really hammering home that truth and transparency.
Michelle, I'm seeing this as Max is describing it in the customer's experience. there's a pivotal moment. There's before UVI and there's after UVI. And so I'm curious to also get your perspective. What kind of feedback are you getting from dealerships that install UVI, and the feedback that their customers are sharing as they're experiencing this new way of doing business?
Great question. So, dealer feedback is around, the curiosity is leading to that consumer confidence, right? Being able to bridge that customer
Yeah.
trust gap. They're seeing measurable bumps in CSI because of that transparency that Max has spoken about. They're like, Michelle, I was about to be all country because I have a lot of country stores that are very like, Michelle, you can't fake an image generated straight from a scan. And I'm like, you sure can. But yeah, I mean, aside from CSI, I mean, I'm seeing, increase in tire and alignment sales. We're seeing an increase now on the variable side from a reconditioning perspective, being able to hold on trades,
Yeah.
speed the market from a merchandising perspective, um, seeing the full 360 of a dealership operation positively being affected by the UVI partnership.
Michelle, I'm glad you brought that up because Max, I want to pivot a little bit and talk about other parts of the dealership that are benefiting from the UVI system, specifically sales, used cars. Michelle mentioned recon, also acquisitions of vehicles on the service drive. Probably the best place a dealership can acquire them. How is UVI being utilized in some of these things?
So UVI is being utilized in both our sales departments as well as our recon department. Any car that we take in on trade, goes through the UVI initially to get a base inspection report on just, the outside and underneath, as well as they'll run it through after recon as well, just to be able to show the customer the differences if we made any kind of paint corrections, tire installations, modifications to the vehicle. We just want that full transparency from, hey, this is what the customer did when they previously owned the vehicle. This is what it looked like when we had it. This is what it looked like after we recon the vehicle, just to give that timeline of events. And as well as for the sales department, they don't have to have that weird salesperson standing in the service drive every day trying to pick, service customers apart. They can simply go into UVI, look at the age and mileage of vehicles, look at the condition, and really gauge as to what may be a good car to trade in or try to purchase, or whatever the next move is on the sales side. So the more and more we get involved with UVI, the more and more applications it has. And selfishly, I'm a little bit more fixated on the service side of the business and what the next applications are, especially tying into the GM or whatever the manufacturer is, tire departments.
Sure.
But it's being utilized all over the dealership, and every day we're getting better and better with it. And it's a full purpose tool.
Michelle, what are you seeing around the country as dealers, continue to strive for transparent transaction and utilize the UVI system?
I mean, huge crossover wins, especially on the
Yeah.
variable side. Dealers are seeing about an average of $300 that they're saving per vehicle that they're reconditioning.
Okay.
And due to our merchandising experience, cars are selling up to a week faster on the dealership's website. So again, what started as fixed ops now has turned into that full store revenue engine, and that's really what my team is focusing on right now, is just making sure all of our stores are driving adoption across variable to fixed.
Great point. And, Max, on the variable side, I can hear the used car manager now saying, we want to turn that vehicle around and sell it in the first 10 days or maybe the first 15 days, because typically the gross profit is the highest earlier on. As a vehicle ages and gets older, 30 days and beyond, it's not quite as attractive anymore. So, Max, what you're doing really benefits the entire dealership, not just service and parts.
Sure, of course. And, as much as I don't like one of my service cars getting flipped into a sales, but that just turns into another service customer. So it's the dealership circle of life, and we're happy to support it. And yeah, it's been a great tool so far. And like I said, we're just going to get better and better at using it every single day.
Mhm. Max, I want to come back a second because you mentioned GM a minute ago, and there's specific pieces that dealerships around the country are looking at. And of course, any of our listeners today might have various OEMs that are part of their dealership or their dealership group. Are there any specific advantages that you're seeing Chevrolet dealers achieving using this system?
Hmm.
Um, I think the real advantage will be when the integration to GM Tire Center is fully set up. For us, and if we're talking about time and efficiency, right? If I'm running a vehicle through the UVEye and it's integrated into my DMS system as well as Tire Central, theoretically I should be able to have tire quotes within seconds. What's available, what's not available in my inventory, what's recommended for the vehicle. They should be able to cross-reference that against manufacturer promotions, like we have a buy three get one right now. So that just eases time for the advisor, the parts department, the entire dealership to get that information over to our customers, right? And we're not trying to make a hard sell on the service drive, even though the UVEye will make that a whole lot easier. We want that to be a soft sell. We want to get that information over to our customers. Hey, this is what we saw in our inspection. We're queuing up some tires for you. If you look at your UVEye report, it's going to have a couple of options for you with our install prices included. And that will just ease kind of operations at the dealership, especially if you're a domestic and dealing with express work. But for every manufacturer, this will save time as well as increase profit and efficiency for the dealership and stop some of those defectors from going to the outside brick and mortars.
Michelle, this is so critical right now as Max is talking about customer retention and, customers, the age of vehicles on the road, are averaging 12 and a half years, which means, they're holding onto their cars longer. Tires are going to be part of that equation. Could you share with us a little bit more? This is really exciting to hear about some of the integrations that you're going to be having with Chevrolet and other OEMs.
Yeah, well, listen, Chevrolet GM dealers have a big opportunity in brand consistency and trust with our partnership, right? And with that, Max, we actually went to market with a GM integration for Tire Central. So we started the process of enabling our stores. So now, with the click of a button, Max's team will be able to quote tires within seconds.
Excellent.
Michelle, here we are in the latter part of the fourth quarter. Dealers are now making their plans for 2026 to looking ahead. A lot of dealers want to make up whatever lost revenue they may have on the variable side and do that in fixed ops. So they're coming to Max, okay, and saying, "Hey, we gotta get a little bit more in 2026." Michelle, what kind of questions do dealers come to UVEye with? What do you hear early on? And I also want to ask you if UVEye will be at that big show in Las Vegas. I think it's early February next year.
Yes, yes, yes. So we will be at NADA next year. So don't be scared. Come to our booth.
Okay.
Um, 2026, the conversations we're having with our dealers right now is retention, right? Retention is of essence to your statement, Sarah, earlier about customers are keeping their vehicle longer, which means the service lane will be where the absorption occurs, right? And so their dealers are always asking, Michelle, my missed opportunities, my missed opportunities. That means you need to look at 100% of those missed opportunities and present to 100% of your customers 100% of the time. And when you do that, 70-ish percent say yes. So that's the conversations that we're having today with our stores in preparation for 2026. A second pillar that we're leaning into is vehicle acquisition, because we all know pricing and fees at the auction can be a little bit aggressive right now.
Yeah.
And so the best place to source inventory is your service lane. So again, making that process seamless for our dealers to take advantage of their customers' vehicles.
And Max, if you had just a short period of time, maybe a minute or so, to speak to your peers who are watching today, the other service, fixed operations, general managers who are making plans for 2026, and maybe they heard about UVEye, maybe their peers in their 20 group are using it. What would you say to them now that you've had the time to see it in action, work with it? What would you say?
I would say in a time where we're in a technological age, we need to keep up with technology, and the more we do so, the better we're going to be as dealerships. And I think the overall theme here and what UVI does and what we've been discussing is that truth and transparency, right? That's something that every single dealership is trying to provide to their customers, whether they're bringing them into the shop to meet the technician firsthand, whether they're taking technician videos, or whether they're using UVI. That transparency is everything in this world today. Trust on the outside world is kind of diminishing day by day. So the more that we can do to bring that transparency, to build that trust in the dealership, to kind of change that mantra of the automotive industry that everyone's just out to swindle you and get you. That's a battle that we fight every single day here. We know it's impossible to win, but that doesn't mean we're going to stop fighting it. But UVI gives us a distinct advantage of being ahead of the curve and winning that battle, right? The more we can show our customers, the more we can bring them into the fold, and more importantly, the more involved they are, right? When they're involved in a process, they're much more likely to buy. They're much more engaged. They're much more intrigued about the tools and technology that we're using. When it's just a transactional, feel, customers can sense that, and they're not likely to purchase there. But when we're using, the technology we are, and better yet, educating the customer as to what it does and why it's beneficial for them, and that engagement is there, it's a no-brainer, right? So to utilize technology like this, to me, after seeing it, using it for the time that I have, would be a yes every single day. So I would advise, others in the industry, not my direct competitors, but others in the industry, to absolutely, get this apparatus and get trained on it and get using it, because it's a 100% net positive.
Michelle will give you the last word. And how does our audience reach out and learn more and have their questions answered?
Yeah, I appreciate that. Listen, at the end of the day, UVI transforms the dealership from being reactive to proactive,
Mhm.
making every scan a moment of truth that truly drives revenue. If you want to get a hold of us, we have a brand new website. It's a lot of insights on that
Yes.
website, full of case studies and best practices at UVI.com. And if you have any questions and you're a current dealer, you can actually reach out to me directly, which is michelle.t@uvi.com.
Both Michelle and Max, Sarah and I want to wish you and your families and the UVI family a very happy Thanksgiving at the end of next week. And thank you for all that you do for the industry and bringing us forward.
Of course. Thank you so much, and same to you and yours.
Yes, likewise. Thank you all so much.
Everyone, you can learn more at UVI.com. The MRI for cars. Visit the new website. I just did. It's amazing. You want to take a look. It's new for 2026, and make this a part of your 2026 plans. So, on behalf of Sarah, I'm Ted Ings. Thank you to UVI here today with us at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.